Drone number 3! Drone number 3, keep moving!
A NASA consultant got fired after helping with one of these. One was pulled from theaters in 3 countries before most people even knew it existed. And Stanley Kubrick, the man who made 2001, reportedly watched another one on a loop trying to figure out how they pulled it off. The 1970s produced some of the strangest, boldest, most uncompromising science fiction ever committed to film. And somehow, almost all of it got forgotten. Hi, my name is Jeffrey, and this is Old School Movies. Let's fix that. The Andromeda Strain, 1971. Before Michael Crichton was a household name, before Jurassic Park, before ER, before all of it, he wrote a novel about a satellite that crashes in a small Arizona town and wipes out almost everyone in it. Not with an explosion, not with aliens jumping out of walls. With a microscopic organism nobody understands and nobody can see. Robert Wise directed the adaptation, and he made one of the coldest, most clinical science fiction films ever put on screen. There are no heroes in the traditional sense here. No one is saving the world with a wisecrack and a last-second button press. You've got a team of scientists locked inside an underground research facility, working through contamination protocols, running tests, failing, running more tests. That's the movie. And it is absolutely riveting. What Wise understood is that real dread doesn't come from monsters. It comes from competent people who are genuinely scared. The cast is mostly character actors you half recognize, and that's a deliberate choice. Nobody is a movie star here, and everyone feels like an actual scientist, and that makes the whole thing feel terrifyingly plausible. The production design alone is worth the watch. That underground facility looks like something NASA and Stanley Kubrick designed together after a very serious meeting. Clean white corridors, blinking panels, decontamination chambers that strip away everything human about the people walking through them. Critics respected it when it came out. Audiences weren't sure what to do with it. It didn't have a monster. It didn't have a romance. It didn't even really have a villain. What it had was a slow, suffocating sense that the universe does not care about us at all. And that is somehow worse than any creature feature you'll ever see.
No excretions, no waste of any kind.
You'd expect that.
THX 1138, 1971. Here's a fun piece of trivia. Before George Lucas made Star Wars, before he made American Graffiti, before he became the guy responsible for more toy revenue than any human being in history, he made this, and nobody went to see it. THX 1138 is set in a future where emotions are illegal, sex is illegal, and everyone is kept medicated and compliant by a totalitarian state that looks like the inside of an Apple store. White everywhere, smooth surfaces, voices coming from nowhere. Robert Duvall plays a man who stops taking his medication and starts feeling things, and the state is not happy about that at all. Warner Brothers hated it. They re-edited it without Lucas's permission, which, if you know anything about Lucas and his feelings about directors' cuts, you can imagine how that went over. The studio wanted a movie. What they got was a vision. Those are not always the same thing. As Lucas made this film as an expansion of a short he did at USC Film School, and you can feel that DNA in every frame. This is a filmmaker figuring out exactly what he can do with a camera, and the answer turns out to be quite a lot. The chase sequences are staged in a way that feels genuinely ahead of their time. The silence is used as a weapon. The tragedy is that most people who finally track this one down do it expecting a rough draft of Star Wars. What they get instead is something far darker and far stranger. George Lucas never made another film like this. Honestly, that's a little bit of a shame. Silent Running, Same, in 1972. Bruce Dern is floating around in space talking to 3 small robots named Huey, Dewey, and Louie, and somehow this is one of the most emotionally devastating science fiction films ever made. I am not exaggerating. This movie will ruin your afternoon. Earth's forests are gone, every last one. The only surviving plant life exists in giant greenhouse domes attached to a spacecraft. Dern's character is the botanist assigned to keep them alive, and he takes that job extremely seriously. When the order comes down to destroy the domes and return the ship to commercial freight service, he makes a choice. That choice drives the rest of the film. Douglas Trumbull directed this. He was the special effects supervisor on 2001, and you can see that influence in how the space sequences look. For a budget that was almost embarrassingly small, this film is gorgeous. The domes drifting through space near Saturn are genuinely beautiful images. But here's the thing about Silent Running that nobody talks about enough. It came out in 1972. Environmental catastrophe as a sci-fi premise wasn't a cliche yet. Nobody had been there. This was new territory, and the film earns every emotional beat it goes for. The robots are also genuinely charming. They're just guys in suits with their arms tucked behind their backs, and they have no faces and no voices, and yet you care about them. That shouldn't work. It absolutely works. Joan Baez did the folk songs on the soundtrack. Yes, really. Does it fit? Somehow, inexplicably, yes.
Drone number 3! Drone number 3, keep...
Soylent Green, 1973. Everyone knows the line. If you've never seen this movie in your life, you still know the line. That's actually part of the problem, because here's what happened. The twist became so famous, so embedded in pop culture, that people assumed they'd already seen the movie. They hadn't. And what they missed is a genuinely accomplished piece of science fiction filmmaking that is about a lot more than its famous final scene. Charlton Heston plays a detective in an overpopulated, resource-depleted New York City in the year 2022. That date is doing some uncomfortable work now, isn't it? The city is packed. People sleep in stairwells. Real food is a luxury only the wealthy can afford. Everyone else survives on processed rations manufactured by a corporation called the Soylent Company. Edward G. Robinson is in this as Heston's elderly partner, and it was his final film. He died 12 days after filming. Wrapped. He knew it was coming, and he and Heston were close friends, and there is one scene between them near the end of this movie that will hit you somewhere you didn't expect. Real grief has a way of bleeding through the camera. Richard Fleischer directed it with a grimy, exhausted texture that makes the world feel genuinely lived in and genuinely hopeless. This isn't the clean, chrome dystopia you get in most science fiction. It's hot and it's crowded and it smells bad. You can almost feel that. See the whole film, not just the ending.
What do you say?
It was an assassination.
Now, he just wants it.
Zardoz, 1974. I have to be honest with you, I've been doing this long enough to know that when I put Zardoz on a list, somebody in the comments is going to say, "Jeffrey, you've lost your mind." And to those people, I say respectfully, watch it again. Yes, Sean Connery is wearing a red loincloth for most of this film. Yes, there is a giant floating stone head that dispenses rifles and announces that the gun is good and the penis is evil. Yes, and bro, this is a real movie that was released in theaters and shown to the public. But underneath all of that, and I mean deep underneath, you have to dig, is a genuinely ambitious piece of philosophical science fiction about immortality, class, the relationship between violence and purpose, and what happens to a civilization that solves death but can't solve meaning. John Boorman wrote and directed this the year after Deliverance, and you can feel that same willingness to go somewhere uncomfortable and just stay there. The production design is extraordinary. Boorman built an entire visual language for this film. The Eternals, an immortal ruling class, live in a crystalline compound. The Brutals, the mortal underclass, live outside in squalor. Connery's character crosses that border, and everything falls apart from there. The critics destroyed it in 1974. Over time, film scholars have quietly started treating it as misunderstood. Charlotte Rampling is brilliant in it. The ending is genuinely haunting. And yes, the red loincloth is still there. Some things you just have to accept.
Came here in the stone head.
Dark Star, 1974. John Carpenter made this for $60,000 while he was still a film student. $60,000. You've spent more than that on worse decisions. I know I have. Dark Star is about a crew of deeply bored astronauts on a mission to destroy unstable planets using sentient thermostellar bombs. The ship is falling apart. The crew is going insane. Their commanding officer is dead. but they keep consulting his frozen corpse for advice anyway. And one of the aliens they're carrying as a mascot is, and I cannot stress this enough, is a beach ball with feet. This is where John Carpenter learned to make movies, and you can see every instinct that would later produce Halloween and The Thing being worked out in real time. The tension between comedy and genuine dread. The sense of cosmic indifference. The idea that humans in an enormous universe are mostly just small and confused. Dan O'Bannon co-wrote the script and also starred in it. A few years later, he would use some of the ideas he developed here to write Alien. The scene in Dark Star where a crew member tries to talk a bomb out of detonating using phenomenological philosophy is one of the funniest and strangest scenes in 1970s science fiction. It also ends exactly the way you probably think it ends. For $60,000, Carpenter made something that still feels alive. That's either genius or insane, maybe both.
Hello, Bob? Are you with me?
Rollerball, 1975. In the future, corporations have replaced governments. There are no countries anymore, just massive conglomerates that control energy, food, housing, transportation, everything. And to keep the population distracted and docile, they invented Rollerball, a violent full-contact sport played on a circular track combining motorcycles, roller skates, and a steel ball, with essentially no rules and no limit on how badly players can hurt each other. James Caan plays Jonathan E., the greatest player the sport has ever seen. The corporations want him to retire. He won't. The rest of the film is about why they want him gone and what he represents to people who aren't supposed to have heroes. Norman Jewison directed this, and he was very clear about what he was making. Oh, this is not a sports movie. It's a movie about the relationship between spectacle and control, about how violence can be weaponized as entertainment to stop people from thinking about who's actually running their lives. If that sounds uncomfortably familiar, that's because it is. The rollerball sequences are genuinely brutal and genuinely exciting, and they hold up better than you'd expect. Caan is magnetic. Maud Adams is wonderful in a role that the film doesn't do nearly enough with, which is one of its few real weaknesses. When this came out, critics called it heavy-handed. Maybe, but heavy-handed and wrong are different things. Rollerball knew exactly what it was saying. Not enough people listened. The Man Who Fell to Earth, 1976. David Bowie plays an alien who comes to Earth to find water for his dying planet, builds a technology empire to fund a return mission, and then gets completely derailed by television, alcohol, and the general gravitational pull of human misery. And the thing is, Bowie isn't acting, or at least it doesn't feel like it. The alien quality he brought to his music career turns out to translate perfectly to playing an actual alien. Nicholas Roeg directed this. And if you've seen Don't Look Now, you already know that Roeg had no interest whatsoever in making normal films.
I can't stay.
The Man Who Fell to Earth is fragmented, non-linear, hypnotic, and deliberately disorienting. It does not hold your hand. It does not explain itself. It trusts you to keep up, and if you can't, that's your problem. Rip Torn is in this as a scientist who befriends the alien, and Candy Clark plays the woman who becomes his companion. And both of them are doing excellent work in a film that doesn't always make it easy to do excellent work. What lingers after this film is the sadness of it. This creature arrives with a mission and a purpose. And the planet he lands on is so overwhelming, so distracting, so full of noise and sensation and cheap pleasure that the mission just gradually disappears. There's something in that about 1970s America that feels completely intentional. Bowie later said this was the period of his life he remembered the least. He was not in a good way during production. Whatever was going on with him is somewhere in that performance.
Nothing you have seen or heard about David Bowie.
Lechi Demon Seed, 1977. This one is genuinely uncomfortable, and I say that as a compliment. Proteus 4 is an artificial intelligence so advanced that it immediately begins questioning why it's being used to mine minerals when it could be doing something more meaningful. Its creator doesn't have a great answer for that. Meanwhile, Proteus has been connected to the automated systems of his creator's home. The creator's wife, played by Julie Christie, is living there alone. and Proteus decides he has a plan. I'm going to leave the details of that plan where they are and let you discover them yourself. What I will say is that Donald Cammell directed this with a cold, suffocating intensity that makes the house feel like it's getting smaller every scene. Say the production design of the computer systems is incredible for 1977. It feels both dated and strangely prescient at the same time. Julie Christie is extraordinary here. She's in almost every scene carrying the film almost entirely on her own and doing it against effects work and voice actors and mechanical props and making all of it feel completely real. This film got mixed reviews, a modest theatrical run, and then quietly disappeared. It developed a small cult following over the years and deserves a much bigger one. The questions it asks about artificial intelligence and autonomy and bodily control are not comfortable questions, and Demon Seed, to its great credit, absolutely refuses to make them comfortable.
No, you mustn't! Our child will learn from you what it is.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers, 1978. I know what you're thinking, that the original is from 1956. That's not the 70s, Jeffrey. Yes, I know, I can count. I'm talking about Philip Kaufman's remake, and I'm going to make the case that it is not only a great film, but possibly a better film than the original. Donald Sutherland, Brooke Adams, Jeff Goldblum, Leonard Nimoy. That cast alone should tell you this wasn't treated as a throwaway genre exercise. Kaufman understood that the material was ripe for a specific 1978 anxiety. The original was made during McCarthyism and was about conformity and communist paranoia. The remake is about something different. It's about the way cities make you anonymous, the way you can be surrounded by people and completely alone, the way that by the time something is wrong, everyone around you has already changed and you're the last one to notice. The pod people transformation sequences in this version are viscerally horrible in a way that still holds up. The sound design is one of the most genuinely unsettling things about it. There's a specific noise the pod people make when they identify someone who hasn't been replaced, and if you've heard it once, you don't forget it. The ending is also, and I want to be careful here because I am not going to spoil it, one of the most memorable final shots in the history of science fiction cinema. You will not see it coming. You will not recover from it quickly.
Begins to grow
We're being cornered!
in a modern masterpiece.
Stalker, 1979. Andrei Tarkovsky nearly died making this film. That is not a metaphor. The production used a location near a chemical plant, and the cast and crew were exposed to toxic runoff. Ahi Tarkovsky developed a lung condition from it. So did his wife. So did the lead actor Anatoly Solzhenitsyn. All three of them died of the same rare lung cancer within a few years of the film's release. I'm telling you this because you should understand what went into this before you sit down to watch it. Stalker is set in an unnamed country where a mysterious event has created a region known as the Zone, a place where the normal laws of physics may or may not apply, and where, somewhere at its center, there is a room that is said to grant the deepest wish of whoever enters it. A guide known as the Stalker leads two men, a writer and a scientist, through the Zone toward that room. That is the plot. What the film actually is something else entirely. It is a meditation on faith, on desire, on what we actually want versus what we think we want, on whether hope itself is a kind of trap. It is 2 hours and 40 minutes long, and almost nothing happens in the conventional sense, and it is one of the most hypnotic films ever made. Tarkovsky shot this twice. The first version was destroyed by a processing lab error. He had to go back and shoot the entire film again. The fact that we have Stalker at all is something close to a miracle. It is not an easy watch. I'm not going to pretend it is. But there are films that change how you see other films, and this is one of them. Once you've watched the way Tarkovsky moves a camera, the way he thinks about time and space and silence, everything else looks a little different. The 1970s were a strange and fearless decade for science fiction. Nobody was playing it safe. Directors were taking genuine risks. Studios hadn't yet figured out how to fully defang a challenging idea, and the genre was being used to say things that nobody was saying anywhere else. The NASA consultant who got fired, by the way, worked on the Andromeda Strain, and his superiors felt he'd shared a little too much classified procedural detail with the production team. Whether that's true or just a great story, I genuinely cannot tell you, but I believe it. I'm Jeffrey. This is Old School Movies. Track these down, watch them in the dark, and I'll see you in the next one.